Hello everybody, welcome to 2K Sunday, I guess. Day, 3 of social distancing and day 4 of no basketball. It's getting pretty rough out there. But, it was gonna go up on Saturday like normal. That's kind of the whole point of this series. It's called 2K Saturday. But I got distracted playing Call of Duty Warzone, so you can't really blame me. But this video is going to be talking about, obviously, the NBA shutting down. I did not want to dedicate a whole really in-depth video to this topic, so I'm doing a 2K Saturday video on it. That's kind of the whole point of these videos, so that I can talk about topics that I really don't have the effort to dedicate an entire video to, just because I don't feel it warrants that much depth as to what I put into my typical videos. So that's why it's a 2K Saturday, I guess. But before we start, if you enjoy this video, just as a reminder, please subscribe to the channel. There are many more videos like this already on the channel. Actually, most of them are going to be better than this one, and many more like it to come in the future. So subscribe if you enjoy, and also drop a like. It makes a huge difference for the channel. It makes the videos do way better, and it makes my life a lot easier, and it makes me money. So drop a like. It's not that hard. Anyways, so as we should all know by now, the season was delayed a couple of days ago after Rudy Gobert contracted the virus. I'm not going to call it by name because that gets your video demonetized, because the people running YouTube are a bunch of bitches. I don't understand how me calling the people running YouTube bitches does not get me demonetized, but saying the name of a virus that is affecting everyone's life right now does. But this is the world we live in, apparently, and this is what I've decided to spend my time doing. So the season has been delayed. At the very least, it's going to be 30 days. It's highly likely that it's going to be longer than that. And even if they do come back, there's a good chance that there are not going to be fans in the arenas. So a lot of people have talked about and I wanted to talk about, how do you come back? What is the game plan once this suspension of the season is over? Because the thing is, Rudy Gobert played 5 games while having the virus, at least potentially. It depends how quick the symptoms show. The younger you are, I believe, the longer it takes for the symptoms to show. So there is a very likely possibility that every single team was exposed to it in some capacity or another, because the 5 teams that the Jazz played went on to play other teams. Christian Wood got it from Rudy Gobert, and then he played other teams after that. That's kind of how it works. It's basically everyone in the league has been exposed to some extent or another. So, of course, that's why they went from keeping fans out of the arena to suspending it that quickly. As soon as they knew Rudy had it, that meant the season needed to be shut down. So, how are you coming back from this? Well, a lot of people have said skip right to the playoffs, but there are issues with that for some people. Some that I don't agree with as much, but we can talk about them. Basically, the main argument against skipping right to the playoffs is, well, there are some teams that had a potential to be in the playoffs with the remaining 20 or so games in the season, and now they're not going to do that. Also, if the thing only goes until April, there were still going to be a couple of regular season games remaining, so maybe you should just pick up where you left off there and keep playing. So it's weird, because I don't think you can play 82 games this season. You're just going to have to skip some of them like it's a lockout. That's just the nature of it. This is obviously unprecedented, and we don't really know what would happen here. So the thing is, the one problem that you could view it as with skipping straight to the playoffs, although I would argue it could only be a positive, interesting twist on the playoffs, is that everyone is getting a month plus of rest. And that means everyone is going to be a spring chicken coming into the season, or coming into the playoffs rather. But also there are going to be guys that are a little rusty because they have not played basketball in a month, or they haven't been able to play it, in the NBA, that is. I'm sure some of them have their own gyms that they're being able to work in. Some might not. Depends on how much they're actually distancing themselves. In my opinion, if you come back at a time where there would have still been regular season games, you just pick up from there. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. Do you do a tournament for the teams that were close to the 8th seed? The problem with that is, what's the threshold for that? Is it going to be the same amount of teams for each conference? Because there are more teams in the West. There are actually 5 teams that are only a couple of games out of the 8th seed in the West, where there are only like 1 or 2 in the East. Where do you draw that line? Because I believe a team like the Pelicans had a shot of getting the 8th seed with Zion back and them going on a roll. But as of right now, they are 4 games out, which is substantial ground to cover. I think it was possible for them to cover that ground. However, it was an uphill battle for sure. So where are you drawing the line in the sand there? It's a tough thing to call, so I don't really know what to make of that. For me, I think the best course of action would be to skip right into the playoffs, and depending on how long this lasts, you can potentially cut the first and second round down to just 5 games. Because we cannot have games going into the late summer. Now you might think, oh, that would be awesome. Summer is kind of a dead period for sports. I'm always kind of bored because there's no sports during the summer outside of the sports I'm playing myself. Well, the problem with that is, that means the off season would be like 2 fucking weeks, which means that obviously cannot happen, so the season has to get delayed for the next season, which means it doesn't really begin until probably January, and that's a problem because how are you making up that ground? I guess you can do it gradually over the next few seasons, but do you really want this to have ripple effects that continue each season for like 3 or 4 years? I would say not. I think the best case here is that you're able to come back within 40 to 50 days or so, go into the playoffs, have some first round series go by a little quick, maybe having no days in the NBA Finals where teams have 2 days of rest in between, make it 1 day every single time. But all I know is you have to cut this down, even the playoffs, depending, because you need to have a decent amount of off-season time. It's literally required for players' bodies to recover from a full season of NBA basketball. It's not just, oh, they need a break. Like, they actually need a break. It's not some I feel like it bullshit. Also, you need time for off-season stuff. You can't rush that. Or you can, but it'd cause a lot of miscalculations. It would cause a lot of problems, a lot of bad contracts, a lot of mistaken draft picks. You need to leave time for franchises to make those decisions. You need to leave time for players to recover from the regular season, so you cannot have games going into the late summer. That's not something that you can afford to do. If they did that, they would have to shorten the 2020-21 season, and that could potentially lead to them shortening the next season. For the teams that have a chance at the playoffs, that sucks, but that's just all of this sucks. That's just kind of how it goes. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. And as for what people have been talking about as far as players being injured coming back if the playoffs are delayed like 3 months, because apparently Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving potentially have timetables that would actually allow them to come back for the playoffs. People are saying that would be unfair, which is obviously true. That's why I would propose in Adam Silver's position that any player that was injured and was not going to be available for the original playoff date is disqualified from playing in the delayed one. I don't think teams should be benefiting from this virus happening. The NBA really is going to be trying their hardest to avoid every single asterisk that they can, and Kevin Durant playing in the playoffs that he was previously going to be unavailable for would probably smack the biggest asterisk on a playoff outcome in NBA history. Imagine the Nets winning the title this year because a virus delayed the playoffs. I can't imagine the outrage that would cost. The problem with the tournament for the 8th seed is that it would have to be 1 game each round, again for the sake of time. I don't think that's fair because 1 game can go either way any given night. That's why there are not really upsets in the NBA, because there are series where through 7 games, the actual best team is more likely to win. So I don't think it's fair to have one game because, let's say the Memphis Grizzlies, who worked hard for their 4-game lead, lose 1 game to the New Orleans Pelicans, just 1 game, and they get knocked out of the playoffs. I think that's unfair. The Pelicans being the 8th seed is a hypothetical. The Grizzlies being the 8th seed is currently a fact. You can speculate that the Pelicans would have gotten it, but the 8th seed should not be taken away from the Grizzlies because of 1 game. That's just a far worse situation, because one is a hypothetical robbery while the other is an actual robbery. So, right into the playoffs, first round 5-game series if it's delayed really long, even second round if it comes to it, and players who were going to be out of the original playoff date are disqualified from playing. That's kind of unfortunate, but that's also how this needs to be, because that's just people coming back from injury and playing when they were not originally going to be there. Injuries are a part of game. Injuries are a part of the game, and you have to leave that factor in there. You can't have every single player fully healthy playing in one playoff series. It would be kind of neat, but also it's a narrative wasteland. Also, if they're not going to have fans in the arena for the playoffs, then just cancel the whole damn thing. I really just cannot imagine a playoffs without the crowd intensity. It's just kind of a waste of everyone's time. That's one of the main reasons, outside of the win or go home factors of a lot of the games, is that the crowd intensity is unbelievable and it's so fun, and that kind of intensity breeds some of the best moments in basketball. And if you are going to remove that element from it, it's going to be a far worse product. So if fans cannot be in the arena, then just cancel everything. But that's how I think the NBA should come back. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.